Saddle sores. Oh, I reckon a few of you might have squirmed at just hearing those words. But if you've never experienced one, you might be slightly baffled as to the complaints you hear from triathletes and cyclists.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've actually experienced a couple over the years and I can vouch for their discomfort. In fact, just saying the words makes certain parts of my anatomy feel like they're attempting to clamber to safety.
But don't worry, saddle sores do not need to be part and parcel of cycling. And there's plenty you can do to prevent them and to make cycling and triathlon far more pleasurable. So we've put together some tips that'll help you to prevent those saddle sores.
Firstly, what is a saddle sore? Well, simply put, it is an irritation of the skin around the point that is in contact with the saddle, your derriere. And trust me, you will know when you have one.
Yeah, they vary from chafing, a repeated rubbing of the skin, through to spots and boils caused by ingrown hairs or bacterial skin infections. None of which are nice. So let's take a look at how to keep these at bay. Okay, since your bottom is one of the main points of contact with your bike and it takes the majority of the weight, it is worth investing in a pair of cycling-specific shorts with a pad in them. Now, this is what we call the chamois pad, and it is a lifesaver. Generally speaking, the more expensive the shorts, the better the chamois pad is going to be inside them. But having said that, the most important thing is to check that they're well fitted, as this will make the biggest difference.
And the same goes for our tri-suits. Most will feature a chamois of some sort. In fact, I would always recommend getting a tri-suit with a chamois, though they do differ to our cycling shorts. See, if you wore a pair of cycling shorts in a triathlon, they will probably soak up half of this lake and be pretty uncomfortable to run in. So they're slightly thinner, they're slightly smaller, but this does also vary. So I would consider the length of the triathlon you're competing in and the length of the bike as to how much padding your tri-suit has. And another thing to consider, as we've spoken about with the cycling shorts, is the fit of them, because if the leg starts to ride up and you get bunched material, then that can also add to chafing and saddle sores.
One of the most obvious areas to look at is the saddle, but it's also one of the hardest to get right. All of us are a different shape, so there's no such thing as one saddle that fits all. So you do have to be patient to experiment, to find the right one for you. But on the plus side, there is a huge range out there, so you will eventually get the right fit. It's also worth noting that it isn't necessarily about the bigger, more padded saddle being more comfortable. It's about the shape. Some saddles even come with a cutout area, which is especially popular for many women.
Then we have chamois cream. Some cyclists absolutely swear by this stuff. Personally, I believe that if you have the correct saddle and a well-fitted, good pair of shorts, you shouldn't really need it, but it's still clearly very popular. Now, it works in a couple of ways. It kills off the bacteria that can lead to skin infections, and it also acts as a lubricant between your skin and your shorts. Now, simply apply it directly to your skin, or alternatively, you can apply it to the chamois of your shorts itself, though don't apply too much because it can actually act in the opposite way and also make it look like you maybe had an unfortunate toilet mishap. And obviously for triathlon, this stuff can wash away during the swim, so you can actually get triathlon specific versions, or as a lot of athletes and pros do, you can just use a petroleum jelly. Okay, you get home from a mega bike ride. All you want to do is sit back and relax and probably eat a heck of a lot of food. But if you really want to limit your chances of getting a saddle sore, I suggest trying to get out of your cycling shorts as soon as possible, and preferably jump in the shower if you can. It's fairly obvious stuff, but this will all help to clean away that nasty bacteria from that region. Okay, a simple one, clean your bike shorts, both for your sake and your training partner's sake. I really wouldn't recommend wearing your bike shorts multiple times without washing them for the same bacterial reasons as before. Equally, make sure that they get fully rinsed out at the end of their wash cycle, because clothes detergents can be a slight irritant.
Okay, should you experience saddle pain during a ride or a triathlon, simply ride faster. That probably sounds counterintuitive, but if you're riding a little harder and pushing slightly more through the pedals, you'll naturally have a slight lift off the saddle, which will hopefully relieve some of the pain. But if all else fails, then you can just stand out of the saddle and hopefully that will give you some respite.
Right, Hair removal, whether it's waxing, shaving or some other method, perhaps avoid a more intimate haircut around your nether region. Hair removal leads to regrowth of hair, and in a place that takes quite a lot of pressure and friction could mean ingrowing hairs and possibly even infection. Now I'm particularly talking to the men right now, so appreciate I'm in no place to tell the women what to do. And it might sound a bit crude, but the hair in that kind of region does actually help with the transport and evaporation of sweat away from the skin.
A saddle that's too high, wonky, or on a funny angle can lead to chafing. And as we've already mentioned, the saddle is one of 3 points of contact with the bike, and it does take the most of your body weight. So it's worth making sure that it's set up correctly for you. But if you are experiencing saddle sores on a regular basis, it's probably worth going to get a bike fit, especially if you're riding a triathlon or a TT bike.
And last but not least, cycling shorts are designed to be worn directly against your skin. You may be used to wearing underwear from day to day, but when it comes to cycling and triathlon, leave them at home. Wearing them under your cycling shorts, or worse, your tri-suit, will only lead to discomfort or even a saddle sore. Now, if you have already developed a saddle sore, well, GTN sends its sympathy. Just reduce your training on the bike or cut it out altogether until your symptoms disappear, and then follow these tips.
Yeah, and if you haven't done so yet and you want to see more GTN videos, just click on the globe to subscribe. And if you want to see what we as triathletes can learn from road cyclists, click down here.
If you'd like to see our beginner triathlon mistakes video, just click down here.